Okay. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Creative Schools info session. It's great to see so many familiar faces joining us today. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Courtney Cintron. I'm Ingenuity's Director of Programs. I'm also joined here by Angela Lin, our Director of Data and Research, and our new Director of the Creative Schools Fund, Kalina Chevalier. So some of you, Kalina's giving us a wave, some of you may recognize her name, and that's definitely for good reason. Kalina brings with her an incredible wealth of experience in the arts and cultural community. Most recently, Kalina served as the Deputy Commissioner of Cultural Grants and Resources at the City of Chicago's Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, DCASE, where many of you may have engaged with her in that role. So help me welcome Kalina by giving her a shout out in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay, so today's session is designed for arts liaisons, other school personnel, and arts partners, teaching artists as well, to gain an understanding of the Creative Schools Fund, its goals, the process of applying for the fund, and what's involved in the application process as well as the implementation process. So we will also identify some tools to support you along the way. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you find this to be helpful. So firstly, I want to make sure that everyone has access to today's deck, which is also serving as your Creative Schools Fund guidelines and overview document. So we'll drop the link in the deck, the link to the deck in the chat now for you so that you can follow along with us and reference the guide also at any time. So on the next slide here, we have hyperlinked each section of this guide so that you can easily access the information that you need. Today, we will be covering most of these sections with the exception of the slide room instructions, which you can access more independently to get a sneak peek of the logistics for accessing Slide Room, our online application platform that we're using this year. And we also used it last year. We will also post the recording of today's session under the How to Apply section in the next week or so. And we will also have a slide room video up shortly for those that prefer more visual instructions. So in today's session, we'll cover a general overview of the fund, this year's fund timeline, eligibility requirements, grant uses and limitations, the Creative Schools Fund application and implementation roles, applicant review process, how to find a partner, and we'll also cover tips for getting started on your application, including where you can access the application this coming Monday, September 9th. We'll also leave some time at the end for a few questions, time permitting. So jot down your questions on your computer or a piece of paper along the way. If we don't have time to get to your questions, you can still share it with us in the chat at the end, and we'll be sure to weave it into an FAQ document that's in development right now. And we want to go ahead and add your questions to that as well. Okay, so let's get started. So once again, for those that are joining us for the first time, let's talk about what the Creative Schools Fund is. So the fund is Ingenuity's data-informed granting strategy that's designed to support teacher-designed arts programs that increase the level of arts access and equity across Chicago public schools and is largely focused on schools with the least systemic arts access. The fund is the largest philanthropic investment for the arts directly into schools each year, and it's supported through public and private funding sources from Ingenuity, CPS, and the Mayor's Office. And at this point, we've invested over $20 million since 2013 across a variety of different granting strategies. And each year, we have a goal of issuing at least $1.5 million in grants. And between our ongoing multi-semester commitments and our single semester commitments this year will be no different. Due to our ongoing multi-semester commitments, our single semester commitments will continue to be a pretty competitive process. So moving to the next slide here, the fund operates within a system of supports that are designed to increase arts access and equity, once again, but along the continuum of the Creative Schools certification. And it's also essential in powering our collective impact efforts, ensuring that our various stakeholders are invested and committed to their role in making an impact. Supports are offered in 3 primary ways that you can see here on the screen. One is Arts Essentials. Arts Essentials awards schools that have completed their Creative Schools survey. This is the annual survey where schools enter their arts access data points on Outlook, and it's a critical source for all of our data products. And schools that complete this survey are awarded $1,000 for the purchase of essential art supplies. Then we have the Creative Teachers Fund, which focuses more on instructional and curricular approaches, such as Skyline integration, and that's managed more by CPS. And finally, we have the Creative Schools Fund, which you're all here for today, or what we refer to as our competitive grants, which Ingenuity manages. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the Creative Schools Fund on the next slide. So the Creative Schools Fund competitive grants focus largely on residencies and school experiences, specifically in collaboration with arts partner organizations. So through these partnership grants, schools are awarded $10,000 for residencies with arts partners across a range of different artistic disciplines, supporting students through expanded multi-week forms of engagement. All of our partnership grants are allocated through an annual fall application cycle, which we're all gearing up for right now, where teachers identify an arts partner, they design a program with them, propose it for funding, and then we go through a robust review process with a review committee, with implementation then taking place in the spring. So it's a quick turnaround. While there are other strategies supported through competitive grants, partnerships are the vast majority of them. We also have a few other subtypes of grants, which you can see listed here. These still fall under the umbrella of the Creative Schools Fund. However, we don't always run all of these cycles annually, as it's very dependent on data, the needs that are presenting themselves, and budget and capacity as well. So these grants are invite only for schools, and the cycle typically takes place in the winter, and they include here minutes of instruction, specifically for elementary school. This includes work to revise master schedules so that elementary schools can come closer to that 120 minutes of weekly arts instruction. Then we have dedicated art spaces or materials. These grants support efforts to improve and expand art spaces or improve materials in the school. And then we have disciplines in depth, which focuses on high schools, and these grants support high schools in expanding the number of disciplines in a school or the depth of those particular disciplines, so courses. So that was just a brief overview of our grants. If you're still uncertain about applying, let's talk a little bit about what the opportunity might mean for you. So when thinking about whether or not you want to engage an arts partner or a school to partner on a Creative Schools Fund grant, these are just some of the opportunities to consider. So if you're a school in collaboration with an arts organization, you can help design and lead a program your students have always wanted, but maybe that's been out of reach or out of budget until now. You can meet a new arts organization or teaching artist and co-design a multi-week residency program. You can support access to a new arts discipline in your school or do a deep dive into a pre-existing arts discipline. You can expand arts teaching and learning capacity in your school by adding professional learning opportunities for arts and non-arts teachers as well. And you can even add a final performance or exhibition to a pre-existing arts class. On the other side here, if you're an arts organization or if you're a teaching artist, you can forge new partnerships among schools with the least systemic arts access. You can support a school to think creatively about how partnerships can help support increased arts access for students, even long-term in some cases. You can tap into greater vendor funds to expand successful programs, explore opportunities for scope and sequence of activities, and you can just generally access more sustainable sources of revenue for arts education activities overall. Okay, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kalina.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with all of you and in my 3rd week at Ingenuity. I'm going to talk you through some details about the Creative Schools Fund timeline, eligibility, and what grants can be used for. So applications for this year's partnership grants will open on Monday, September 9th. We'll have 3 info sessions that both school representatives and arts partners are encouraged to join us for. The remaining 2 will take place on September 17th and October 3rd. Please note that there are 2 application deadlines this year. The school segment of the application will close on October 18th, and schools will also need to send their respective arts partners their section of the application via the application platform by this date. Partners will then need to complete their segment of the application by October 28th. By mid-December, grant decisions will be made and schools and partners will be notified of these decisions shortly thereafter, with implementation for programs taking place between February and June of 2025. So now let's take a quick look at the eligibility requirements. So for schools to be eligible, first, Arts Liaisons will need to complete their Creative Schools survey via Artlook, and we'll provide more information about that in just a moment. Also, please note that schools already receiving a multi-semester Creative Schools Fund grant cannot apply. Arts Liaisons must also be prepared to act as the lead applicant and lead the coordination with the arts partner. So partners, if you are planning to partner with a district-managed school, you must have an active vendor number. If you're uncertain if your vendor number is active or not, check in with your operations person or contact us at Ingenuity. Also want to note that securing a vendor number can take upwards of 3 months. So if you don't already have a number, we would not suggest trying to secure it before the close of this application cycle. However, you can still opt to apply for the fund with a non-district managed school. Additionally, your Artlook profiles should be up to date for the current school year. So this means your contact information should be updated. Programs should have been copied over from last year, including subdisciplines. And you also want to update your matching toggle and make sure that it reflects that you're looking for a match. If you have additional questions about how to update your Artlook profile, please reach out to artlook@ingenuity-inc.org or join us for Data Tools for Arts Organizations on September 10th at 3:30 p.m. This session will cover how you can leverage the various data tools available to you, including Artlook, and we'll drop the registration information on the link to that in the chat. Schools, let's jump into some details for completing your survey. So the annual Creative Schools survey launched yesterday, Wednesday, September 4th. This annual survey collects information about your arts programming and offerings from the prior school year. So we're going to be looking at the 2023 to 2024 school year. After your school completes the survey, it will be awarded $1,000 in Arts Essentials in November or December from the Department of Arts Education. And your school will also be eligible to apply for these Creative Schools Funds grants of up to $10,000, which you're learning all about today. Arts Liaisons are designated to complete their school's Creative Schools survey, and filling out the survey is also one of the requirements for the $200 Arts Liaison stipend. The survey deadline is September 27th, so you can begin to work on your Creative Schools Fund application before the survey is complete, but just make sure that the survey is submitted before you submit your Creative Schools Fund grant application. For any questions regarding the survey and how to complete it, you can reach out to artlook@ingenuity-inc.org. All right, so now that we've covered eligibility, let's move on to covering what these Creative Schools Fund grants can be used for and what some of the limitations are. So grants can be used for in-school arts residencies that may include workshop series, teacher professional development, field trips, including bus fees, and resource development as part of the multi-week programming. In addition to paying fees to their arts partners, schools may also purchase supplies to support their partnership and reimburse teachers for planning time. This could include teachers' non-instructional extended day pay, including 1.45% added on for benefits, materials and supplies for arts learning, supplies to support culminating school performances, exhibitions, and events, as well as hardware and equipment such as laptops, iPads, and 3D printers. There are some limitations to how Creative Schools Funds grants can be used, which I'll read through and are listed here on the slide. So student instruction and programming may only take place during school hours. Grants may not support out-of-school time student programming. Grants may not be used to replace instruction from a certified or endorsed arts teacher or to reduce their hours. They cannot be used to support arts teachers' salary. Also, supplies must be purchased by the school unless proprietary to the arts partner. And any arts partner software or technology platforms that include unique logins for teachers and/or students must be approved by CPS IT prior to being included in the grant budget. So with that, I'll now turn it back over to Courtney to discuss the role of the Arts Liaison.
Thanks, Kalina. Okay, so yes, let's discuss roles and responsibilities for those involved in applying for the fund, and then if awarded, implementing the program. So beginning with Arts Liaisons, as every school's arts ambassador, liaisons are responsible for leading the application process and for submitting the application to Ingenuity for review. As we just reviewed with Kalina, liaisons must submit their Creative Schools survey before finalizing and submitting their Creative Schools fund application. I know this language can get just a little bit confusing because we're saying Creative Schools, right? There is a Creative Schools survey and there is a Creative Schools fund, just to be super clear. So you want to make sure schools that you submit the survey before the fund application. But liaisons, please note that you can work on both simultaneously. Once again, just make sure to submit the survey first. We also ask that you coordinate with your school leaders and other teachers to determine what your school's arts programming interests and needs are, and to ultimately select an arts partner to work with that represents those interests and needs. You will also act as a primary point of contact throughout the application and grant period, and you should work with your arts partner to secure the necessary information for your grant application. You should also identify the teachers that will work with your arts partner to implement the grant and get a sense for the capacity of that teacher and how the program will best fit into their classroom and their schedule. If awarded, liaisons will also be responsible for ensuring the implementation of the grant-funded arts program. Liaisons will need to help support scheduling and budget management as well. They'll need to submit a grant report in June that talks about the outcomes of the program, and they're also responsible for ensuring compliance with CPS policies as outlined in the implementation guide. And they should maintain communication with Ingenuity in case there are any changes along the way as well. Okay, so that's the arts liaison role. Let's move to the role of the arts partner in the process. So partners, once you determine your eligibility to work with a school, you will work with your identified school partner to outline the scope of the program and provide content that can be utilized in the application process. You will also have a segment of the application to fill out that liaisons will send to you, once again, via slide room. We'll talk more about this a little bit later, but this will ask you some basic information about your arts organization and the program that you'll be delivering. If your school partner is awarded with the grant, you will be responsible for program delivery, which includes the in-school work, as well as some of the administrative and operational activities as well. So for instance, you will be responsible for quoting the school for services represented in the grant. Once you quote the school, they will issue a purchase order. Make sure the purchase order is open before you initiate your program. For charter schools, that process may look a little bit different. So you're going to want to clarify with the charter school what their process looks like before starting your program. You want to invoice the school promptly for services that have been provided so that you can make sure that you get paid. And you will assign teaching artists to the program, ensuring that they have completed their background checks. And then you'll implement your program in accordance with the grant application. And you should also support your arts liaison with end of semester reporting. It will also be your responsibility to ensure that any programs you use in the classroom, for instance, are approved by CPS, and just making sure that you comply with all of the CPS vendor policies and protocols as well. Okay, back to Kalina.
Thanks, Courtney. So I'm going to now talk you through how the application review process works. So all Creative Schools Fund applications are reviewed and scored by an external review committee. The committee will be composed of 20 arts education practitioners with representation from teachers and arts partners and across all artistic disciplines. Each application is reviewed by 3 committee members, and committee members evaluate each application based on established merit criteria, which I'll go through in a moment. Ingenuity staff then reviews all applications advanced through the review committee's scores and conducts an eligibility and equity criteria review on those high-scoring applications. Final applicants are then presented to the review committee for final approval. So the next slide shows the merit review criteria. And this is the review criteria that the committee will use to score your applications. So it's really important as you're putting together your application to be aware of these criteria and make sure you're addressing them. So those criteria are program clarity. So they will assess if the purpose, objectives, methodology, and expected outcomes of the proposed program are communicated in a concise and understandable manner. Program merit. They'll want to see that the proposed program reflects an intrinsic quality and effectiveness and innovation in alignment with its key objectives. Next is partner role clarity, a clear definition and understanding of the responsibilities, duties, and contributions expected from each partner involved. And they will also assess the school partner fit. So looking for a strong alignment between a school and its external partner in terms of shared goals, values, resources, and capabilities, facilitating effective collaboration and mutual benefit. And finally, they will provide a score for their overall impression. This is an opportunity for them to comment on any overall impressions they had that weren't addressed in the prior sections of the rubric, and or to emphasize any strengths based on the other criteria. So following the committee reviews, Ingenuity will review the recommended grantees to ensure that the pool of grantees meet the priority equity criteria that are outlined on this slide. So the first of those criteria is gaps in arts access. So we will prioritize funding schools scoring emerging and developing on the Creative Schools Certification Survey. Next, we will preference applicants whose student bodies experience the least systemic arts access based on survey data. We will strive for geographic breadth, ensuring that grantees include the majority of networks in the city. And we will prioritize a diversity of programs and arts organizations, including arts partners representing a variety of budget sizes, arts disciplines, and BIPOC characteristics. We also want to make sure that we are supporting a good number of arts partners overall. So we recommend each individual arts partner to be a part of no more than 3 applications. And with that, I will turn it back over to Courtney.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into talking about how to find a partner. So maybe you're interested in applying for the fund, but you haven't identified a school or an arts organization to do so with yet. So Ingenuity, as some of you may know, we have several strategies and tools to support arts organizations and schools in finding partners. Artlook Map is one of the primary tools, and this is a fantastic time to start using it to search for arts organizations or schools that match with what your school or organization is looking for. Many of you may be familiar with the Artlook platform, but if not, I'm going to hand things off to Angela Lynn, our Director of Data and Research, for a brief overview.
Thank you so much, Court. So we'll be going over Artlook, and I see a number of Arts Liaisons on the call today that I saw yesterday afternoon as well at the orientation briefing. So thank you so much for spending a second consecutive afternoon with us. So hopefully most of you do know about Artlook, but if not, we'll do a brief overview. So Artlook is our data collection, there we go, as well as data sharing platform that allows schools and arts partners to connect with one another. It's also a platform that allows Chicago's community to access public arts education data so that we can all work together to deliver high quality arts education experiences to every CPS student. So there are 3 aspects of Artlook. These consist at the bottom, you'll see a public facing map that's at chicago.artlookmap.com. And when we say public facing, I mean you don't have to log in to view a lot of the data. And so on this public facing map, you can use it to navigate school profiles. Using Artlook Map, you can see information on CPS schools' arts education programming offerings. You can see the Arts Liaison contact at a school, what courses have been offered in prior years, as well as the Creative Schools certification data. From there, you can explore which schools you may want to partner with, and then you can reach out to them. On the flip side of the arts organization data, we also have a lot of data on which programs different arts partners are offering and which schools they've also partnered with before. So there's a ton of information publicly available that you can use to help inform your decisions. So if you're new to using Artlook, you can again reach out to that artlook@ingenuity-inc.org email address. And we can also easily meet with you one-on-one to discuss any technical questions. So here for finding a partner, Artlook can be an incredible tool for finding an arts partner match on both the school and the arts partner end. So there are a lot of things you can consider though prior to your search. So this is just some basic things that outline like what might help you start figuring out what might be the best fit. So for instance, as arts liaisons, you may want to consider an arts organization that aligns with your school's mission and values, or an organization that's worked with other schools before, perhaps those in your network or neighborhood. You also want to maybe consider the types of programs they offer. Do they offer residencies or do they offer workshops? Do they also offer an arts discipline that your school would like to have and that can be supported with a teacher? So once you do narrow down your search, you will also need a line on scheduling and ensuring alignment there as well. So arts partners, a lot of these also apply to you all as well. There you will consider many of the same factors. Is the school interested in your programmatic offerings? Do you have the capacity, tools, and schedules needed to support the identified school? So these are just some of the items you might want to consider ahead of your search. So with this year's Creative Schools Fund application, arts organizations must update their Artlook profile, and only schools with Artlook profiles will be able to apply for a grant. So please check and update your 24-25, the current school year Artlook profile, and hopefully this should take you only 10 to 15 minutes to update. There are 4 sections. Here we've kind of outlined them. Organization details, this is just verifying your organization name, address, a few details like that. We have a section on programs to list out each individual program you are planning to offer this school year. School partnerships, we admit maybe you don't know exactly who you are going to be partnering with, you can leave that blank. For profile completion does not mean you must fill out your school partnerships. We know the school year is just starting. And finally, it's really important that you update your contact information. This is on a contact that'll be on the public facing website as well as your executive director. So altogether, again, this should be relatively straightforward to complete. If you have any questions, so again, reach out to that same email address that you keep seeing. If you don't have an Artlook profile just yet, don't worry, we can help set you one up before you apply for the Creative School Fund grant. So now I'll pass it to Court to talk through some resources.
Excellent. Okay, so in addition to Artlook, we also have some resources that can be helpful in understanding best partnership practices and navigating other role-specific procedural items, especially if you are newer to partnering with schools or arts organizations. In particular, we have our back-to-school guide for arts partners, which some of you may have received at the back-to-school event on the 23rd. And we also have our Arts Liaison Guide for liaisons, which many of you liaisons that are here today may have received yesterday in the briefing. So I highly recommend virtually thumbing through your respective guide and reviewing the partnership sections. And there are also some helpful prompts and questions for liaisons and arts partners respectively to consider when initiating a new partnership. If these approaches to finding partners aren't exactly your jam, then we definitely recommend that you join us for Ingenuity's Arts Partnership Summit that's taking place on October 9th this year at Malcolm X College. That's where it took place last year as well. You can click the link in the slides to register on your respective decks. We'll also drop the link in the chat now. But the summit is an opportune moment to meet arts organizations and school representatives and come together and be face-to-face with one another. During the event, arts partners host info tables about their respective arts programs, and we have connection cards for schools where you can write down who you've connected with, and that card is your school's entry into a drawing to win one of 15 $2,000 mini grants to go towards supporting partnerships. There's also food and drink, and it's just really a lot of fun. I love being there and having an opportunity to talk to all of you and be together. If you already know who you want to partner with, perhaps you can coordinate meeting up at the summit with your partner to discuss more details or just get together informally as a touch point in the process of applying. We find that building your connection with your partner will also help ensure open communication and build trust. So that process feels really nice throughout the semester. So we hope to see all of you there. Okay, so this does bring us to our last couple of segments here of the info session. We're doing really good on time. So we'll probably have a lot of time for questions, which is good. So this is going to be how to get started on your application. To begin, we do have some helpful application tips and reminders for you that Kalina is going to kick us off with.
Thanks. Yeah, and I can start this section by sharing some reminders about tools for finding arts partners. So although Ingenuity cannot provide partner referrals, we can provide assistance on the best way to look for a partner match using the public-facing map through Artlook. In schools, please do note that once a program is underway, you cannot switch to a different partner and funds will not be permitted to be allocated to other purposes beyond what was specified in the application. It's very important to have a conversation with your partner to make sure you are aligned on the details of the program. So that conversation should include talking about the mission and program values, what types of arts programming your school wants or needs, overall program ideation, the grade levels to be served, general program scheduling alignment, confirming that your TAs have their background checked and that your partner has an active vendor number, and of course, troubleshooting. So what's your plan if something does not go as planned? I also want to share some tips about program schedule planning. First, emphasizing don't overprogram. Residencies can vary in length, but be realistic with the number of program weeks. So the golden zone is usually around 6 to 12 weeks. There are roughly 16 school weeks from the start of February to the end of May, but you should leave some room for cancellations, delays, and unforeseen events. Also want to note that funds may not be loaded into school budgets until mid-February. So if you're worried about this, we would recommend beginning partnerships, beginning programming at the end of February or early March to make sure you have funds in place before you begin. And I'll throw it back to Courtney for some more tips.
Yay. Okay, budget. So it's important to reach a consensus with your partner around how the $10,000 budget will be allocated. Schools, your arts partners should know and agree to the budget breakdown that you submit through the application before you submit it. We noted last year that there were some instances where arts partners were surprised with their allocated amount. The grant total is $10,000. But this total amount should be broken down across 7 line items that are listed in the application that include things such as paying your arts partner for the delivery of their programs or consulting, paying teachers for time, materials to support the program, field trips, including bus transportation off-site. So all of this needs to be factored in, and there should be a discussion before the application is submitted about these items. Please, 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 please make sure that everyone is on the same page so that we can collectively manage expectations. You also want to discuss the application timeline. Arts liaisons. Make sure to coordinate with your arts partner on how you want to approach the application. We've already discussed that there are 2 application deadlines this year. Once again, there are 2 application deadlines. Arts partners should receive their segment of the application no later than October 18th. It will be sent by the arts liaisons from their slide room application in the form of a reference form to your email. So there's no way to modify this title. It's not actually a reference form, but in the slide room platform, that's what it's called. That's the only way we can send this form to the partner. So partners, just anticipate that. Don't be thrown off by the fact that it says reference form on it. Liaisons, you can send this part of the application to your partner at any time. So you don't need to be done with your segment first. It'll be more clear when you're in slide room how to do this, but it just definitely needs to happen once again by October 18th. And partners, you should submit your segment of the application by October 28th. So make sure you're coordinating on this so that partners, you know when to anticipate receiving your part of the application, and you know when your school partner is also submitting their application segment. Okay, also to streamline all of these coordination efforts, I highly recommend creating a Google folder with all of your program details that you entered into your application. So you may also want to document information from your discovery conversations with your partners, including information about the budget, the schedule, the timelines. Make sure that the folder is accessible to the partner or the school. Additionally, please note that due to our pre-existing multi-semester commitments, our single semester grants will continue to be a competitive process. Some folks asked us last year why they didn't receive grants. And once again, this is because it is quite a competitive process and it's very high volume. Also, arts partners, to Kalina's point earlier, we highly recommend that you not apply with more than 3 schools for this cycle, given our equity criteria back on slide 21. As part of our priority equity criteria, we want to ensure that schools have access to a diversity and breadth of arts partners. You can apply for more, but this is our recommendation to you, that you keep it to 3 and under. Okay, back to Kalina.
Thanks, Courtney. So once again, the applications will be administered through an online platform called SlideRoom. So you'll be able to access the platform via Ingenuity's website under the Creative Schools Fund How to Apply page. We will also send out an email with all of the relevant information. So there are 4 primary sections to the application. The applicant contact section, which asks for basic contact information. The grant proposal overview section, which will ask you for the details of the program that you're proposing. And the budget section, which will ask you to determine how the $10,000 will be spent across 7 different line items. So those 3 sections will all be filled out by the Arts Liaison. Then the partner application section, which will be filled out by the arts partner, will be sent to the arts partner via the Arts Liaison via the SlideRoom platform, as Courtney described. So Arts Liaisons, please remember that you can send the reference form to your arts partner at any time. The sooner the better, but definitely by October 18th. Partners, you'll need to submit that form by October 28th. And again, that will be emailed to you via this SlideRoom platform. So the remaining part of the deck that we are presenting from and that you were able to access online provides some basic instructions on how to fill out the SlideRoom application and what you can anticipate it will look like. So if you need any assistance while you're filling out your application, please feel free to contact Ingenuity's office or send an email to me, and I'll put my email in the chat to make sure you have it. So with that, we're going to conclude our formal presentation, but as Courtney mentioned, we do actually have a bit of time for questions.